They say forests are home to peaceful wildlife, but what if some of the largest creatures hiding there are also the deadliest? From deadly snake attacks to enormous crocodiles emerging from dark waters, these encounters reveal nature's giants at their most terrifying. Here are the 30 largest forest animals that shock the world. The man carefully follows something enormous as it moves across the forest floor, while the camera shakes through the thick vegetation behind him. At first, the situation already feels tense enough, but within seconds he suddenly rushes forward and the entire encounter explodes into chaos. Leaves and dirt fly everywhere as he struggles against the massive anaconda, fighting to pull its thick body out from the dense cover. The longer the struggle continues, the more unbelievable the snake's size becomes when it finally emerges into the open. At first glance, it almost doesn't look real standing in the shallow river. Its dark silhouette contrasts so heavily against the water and surrounding forest that the entire scene immediately feels far more unsettling than an ordinary wildlife encounter. The massive black wolf lowers its head calmly to drink while standing paw deep in the water, barely reacting to anything around it, even while remaining completely peaceful. Its size and intense presence make it feel like something you wouldn't want to encounter alone. Animals this imposing can make even quiet moments feel intimidating, where sheer presence alone transforms an ordinary scene into something deeply unsettling. The kayak drifts quietly through the shallow river, while the camera points ahead at something enormous standing motionless in the water. Even from a distance, its silhouette feels unnaturally large against the trees, instantly changing the ride's calm mood. As the kayak passes only a few inches away, the true scale of the moose becomes overwhelming. Water barely reaches its lower legs, while its towering body and massive antlers dominate the entire river, making the close encounter feel far more dangerous than peaceful. The man casually crouches beside something so massive it barely even fits properly within the frame. At first, the situation feels almost unreal, especially considering how calm he remains while standing only inches away from it. The enormous crocodile stays motionless beside him, its armored body stretched across the ground like a living fossil. Even without moving, its sheer size and powerful jaws create constant tension, making every second it continues feel dangerous. Reptiles this massive rarely need movement to feel threatening, as sheer size and raw power alone create tension nearby that's impossible to ignore. The hunters move carefully through the forest, scanning the brush as the crunch of leaves echoes around them. Everything feels routine at first, until something suddenly appears ahead of them and immediately forces the entire group to stop in place. Standing directly in front of them, the massive sambar stag barely moves while its towering antlers stretch outward through the trees. Even without charging or making noise, the animal's sheer size and presence completely take over the moment. A large crowd gathers along the beach, phones raised while everyone stares towards something moving slowly near the shoreline. At first, it's difficult to understand what's drawing so much attention. But the closer the camera gets, the more unbelievable the scene becomes. The enormous turtle drags itself steadily across the sand, its massive shell dwarfing the people standing nearby. Waves crash around it as the crowd watches in complete awe, making the moment feel like witnessing something incredibly rare and ancient. Unfortunately, little else is known about this extraordinary encounter, leaving behind only footage of an ancient giant disappearing back toward the ocean. The hunter stays completely still high above the forest floor, quietly recording movement below while leaves sway around the tree branches. At first, whatever is down there seems completely unaware it's being watched from only a short distance away. The large bobcat slowly moves beneath the tree, its muscular body weaving through the brush with calm confidence. Then, without warning, the animal suddenly pauses mid-step, and the entire atmosphere of the encounter immediately changes. At first glance, the tourists already seem completely stunned by whatever is moving beside their yacht. Phones stay locked onto the water while an enormous shape drifts alongside them, so large that it immediately makes the boat itself seem much smaller.
Oh my God, look at that!
The massive crocodile glides slowly across the surface directly in front of the yacht, its body stretching so far through the water that it appears longer than the vessel beside it. Even surrounded by noise and people, the giant predator moves with complete confidence.
Oh my God, look at that!
Thankfully, the encounter remains peaceful, proving that even enormous predators can pass through human spaces without conflict when distance and caution remain. Even through the ranger station window, the animal already looks unbelievably massive from the beginning of the video. Its dark shape fills the path outside so completely that for a moment, it almost seems too large to be a real bear.
Katmai, mira lo que viene aquí. We're at the Katmai Ranger Station, they let us in. Look at this bear, just outside the door.
The giant brown bear slowly walks past Brooks Lodge with calm, heavy steps, barely acknowledging the people watching safely from inside. Every movement of its muscular frame and oversized paws makes the close encounter feel far more intense than the glass separating them.
Mira este oso. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. That bear's right here.
There's one key that opens up all locks.
At first glance, the massive shape stretched across the roof almost looks like part of the hut itself. But the longer the camera stays focused on it, the more obvious it becomes that something enormous is slowly moving above the village.
Look at the roof! It is moving!
The giant snake slithers across the dirt roof while people gather below, watching from a distance. Its thick body drapes over the edge of the structure with every movement, making the entire scene feel incredibly tense despite how calmly the animal moves. Moments like this show how quickly familiar places can feel unsettling, especially when enormous wildlife appears somewhere completely unexpected and uncomfortably close. The canoe drifts quietly along the shoreline while something enormous moves beside the water only a short distance away. Even before the camera fully focuses on it, the animal's size already feels strangely out of place against the surrounding landscape. The massive caribou walks calmly along the shore, its towering antlers stretching outward as it passes beside the canoe. Every slow step through the shallow water makes the close encounter feel far more intense than the peaceful setting would normally suggest. Most people don't realize how strange giant millipedes actually look until one is this close to the camera. Resting across the man's hands, the creature's long, segmented body twists slowly while hundreds of tiny legs ripple beneath it in perfect synchronization.
So we just turned over some rotting wood.
Instead of moving quickly, the giant millipede crawls with a slow, almost mechanical rhythm, wrapping part of its body around his fingers as it explores. The closer the camera gets, the more alien the creature begins to feel, despite doing almost nothing.
And she was underneath, curled up. But even wild ones like this seem to tolerate handling quite well.
Creatures like giant millipedes feel unsettling because familiar movements become exaggerated, turning something harmless into a sight that appears strangely unnatural up close. The jaguar stays perfectly still on the rocky ledge beside the rushing river, eyes locked onto movement in the water below. At first, nothing really happens. Then he notices something swimming closer through the current and refuses to look away. The giant otter circles cautiously through the river, while the jaguar waits above with complete patience. Every second feels tense enough to explode into chaos, but neither animal makes the first move, leaving the strange standoff hanging in suspense beside the rushing water. The driver slowly rounds a narrow bend in the road, expecting a clear path ahead, when suddenly something shocking happens. Massive shapes are already spread across the road in front of him, completely blocking the way and forcing the vehicle to stop immediately.
Hello, Patrick. He's a bit shy. Slowly does it.
Several Aldabra giant tortoises slowly wander across the pavement, their enormous shells making the road feel far too small for them. Even from inside the vehicle, the size and calm confidence of the ancient-looking reptiles completely take over the scene.
They're all good. I think they're having a meeting. Bye, guys.
Ancient-looking animals like these transform ordinary roads into surreal encounters, where sheer size and calmness make modern surroundings feel strangely prehistoric instead. Fishing alone in the wilderness already feels quiet enough on its own, until you realize something enormous is standing only a few feet away from you. The man keeps recording calmly, but the closer you look behind him, the stranger the situation becomes. Two massive elk stand beside the fisherman near the water, barely reacting to his presence while towering over the surrounding brush. Their huge antlers and calm stillness somehow make the encounter feel even tenser, especially given how unbelievably close they are. Fortunately, the encounter remains calm, showing how even enormous wild animals can coexist peacefully when neither side reacts with fear or aggression. The hunter keeps recording as his dog suddenly locks onto something deep between the trees. At first, only a massive dark silhouette is visible ahead, but the moment the dog starts barking and rushing forward, the entire situation changes instantly. The huge black wolf backs away through the forest at first, keeping distance while watching the dog closely. For a moment, it seems the encounter is ending peacefully. Then suddenly, something shocking happens before the camera can keep up. Unfortunately, what happened next remains unknown, as the recording abruptly cuts off, leaving behind only confusion, tension, and unanswered questions within the forest. The road stays empty as the camera points toward the dense forest lining both sides. Nothing seems unusual at first, then movement suddenly appears between the trees, and within seconds, the entire atmosphere of the video changes. A massive tiger calmly emerges from the jungle and steps onto the road, its striped body standing out sharply against the pavement. Without rushing or reacting to the people nearby, the predator crosses silently before disappearing back into the forest again. The hikers continue along the narrow mountain trail when movement suddenly appears further ahead on the path. At first, the figure seems almost too large for the rocky terrain around it. Then it keeps getting closer, and the tension immediately starts building. The massive male mountain goat walks directly toward the group with complete confidence, its thick horns and muscular frame dominating the narrow trail. Even surrounded by cliffs and open space, the animal moves like nothing in the mountains could challenge it. Mountain animals like this command respect naturally, where confidence, balance, and sheer strength allow them to dominate even the harshest terrain effortlessly. The man keeps the camera focused on the forest ground, while something unusually large moves through the leaves ahead of him. At first, it almost looks impossible for an ant to be that size. Then he suddenly reaches down and tries grabbing it.
It's like nibbling at this bird poo. There's one over here, look.
The giant forest ant darts unpredictably across the dirt while the man struggles to pin it down without getting too close. Up close, its oversized mandibles and aggressive movements make the insect feel far more intimidating than something so small should.
A giant forest ant. Wow. Please don't bite me.
Some insects become intimidating not because of size alone, but because speed, aggression, and exaggerated features make them feel unexpectedly dangerous nearby. The open field looks calm and empty at first, with nothing but tall grass moving in the wind. Then far in the distance, a massive dark figure slowly emerges into view, and the closer it gets, the more unusual it starts to look. The enormous black grizzly moves across the field with slow, heavy steps, its dark coat making it stand out from anything around it. Even from far away, the bear's sheer size and unusual coloration give the encounter an almost unreal feeling. Rare appearances in nature often feel surreal, especially when familiar predators suddenly appear larger, darker, and far more intimidating than expected in person. The forest stays quiet except for the sound of heavy movement somewhere beyond the trees. Branches shift, leaves crunch under enormous weight, and then a huge shape slowly pushes its way out from the undergrowth into clear view. The massive boar moves through the forest with slow, deliberate steps, its thick body and oversized tusks making it look incredibly intimidating up close. Every movement feels aggressive even without charging, especially with the animal clearly deep into rutting season. Boars during rutting season carry an especially intimidating presence, where aggression, size, and territorial behavior can make even calm encounters feel dangerously tense. Male red deer can grow massive during rutting season, using their size and antlers to intimidate rivals without even needing to fight. Standing motionless in the open, this one already looks imposing enough to dominate the entire clearing around it completely. The deer throws its head back while steam rises around its body in the cold air, its enormous antlers stretching outward as it bellows again. Every movement feels aggressive and territorial, making it obvious this animal is not something another male would want to challenge. Rutting season transforms animals like red deer into displays of pure dominance, in which sound, posture, and sheer presence become weapons in their own right. Some insects are strong enough to lift objects many times heavier than their own body weight, using oversized jaws designed almost entirely for combat. Resting against the tree bark, this creature already looks far more like a tiny armored machine than something naturally alive. The massive stag beetle slowly crawls across the trunk while its giant mandibles flex, holding something in front of the camera. Up close, every detail of its armored body and sharp features makes the insect feel strangely intimidating, despite barely moving at all. Beetles like this prove that raw strength and intimidating design aren't limited to large predators, where even tiny creatures can appear remarkably formidable up close. Some predators become so large that even the forests around them start feeling smaller by comparison. Deep within the Khabarovsk wilderness, something massive moves through the snow-covered terrain, leaving behind the kind of presence few animals would ever dare challenge. The enormous Siberian tiger roams calmly through its territory, its muscular frame and thick winter coat dominating the frozen landscape. Every slow step through the forest reinforces just how unbelievably massive these Russian Far East tigers truly are. Predators of this size transform entire landscapes with their presence alone, where forests, snow, and silence begin feeling secondary beside such overwhelming power nearby. Some creatures hidden within the rainforest grow to sizes that honestly shouldn't look possible for what they are. Stretched across the wet forest ground, this one already looks unnaturally long enough to make people stop and stare immediately.
There's this massive worm here. I've seen some big worms in my time, they're not this big.
The giant rainforest worm slowly twists across the mud, its thick body glistening beneath the damp jungle floor. The closer the camera gets, the stranger the creature begins to feel, almost as if it were pulled from a different prehistoric world. Rainforests often hide creatures that challenge expectations, where unusual size and appearance can transform harmless animals into something strangely prehistoric and unsettling. Some deer grow large enough that you notice their presence long before you fully see them. Hidden between the dense trees, this towering figure barely moves at first, yet something about its silhouette immediately makes the surrounding forest feel tense and unusually quiet. The massive Rusa stag slowly steps between the trees, its heavy antlers weaving through the branches while the camera struggles to keep a clear view. Even partially obscured by the forest, the animal's sheer size and imposing posture completely dominate the scene. Large deer like this naturally command attention, where sheer height, antlers, and quiet confidence can transform an ordinary forest into something deeply intimidating. Security cameras usually capture quiet, uneventful footage. Empty driveways, moving shadows, maybe the occasional animal passing through. But this recording is different. The moment the massive dark figure enters the frame, the entire scene suddenly feels far less ordinary. The enormous black bear casually moves across the camera's view, its size making nearby objects seem much smaller than they actually are. Even through grainy CCTV footage, the animal's heavy build and slow movements make it feel incredibly intimidating to watch. Sometimes the most unsettling footage comes from ordinary cameras, where unexpected wildlife suddenly transforms familiar surroundings into something tense and deeply unnerving. The hunter suddenly stops moving as something huge comes into view directly ahead through the trees. For a second, the animal almost blends into the forest itself. Then the camera steadies and its towering antlers slowly come fully into view. The massive Sika stag stands motionless in front of him, its dark body and heavy antlers dominating the narrow opening between the trees. Even from a distance, the animal carries the kind of presence that makes the entire forest feel smaller around it. Encounters like this show how sheer presence alone can transform silence into tension, especially when wildlife appears powerful enough to dominate its surroundings. Trail cameras usually capture quick flashes of movement before animals disappear back into the dark. But this footage is different. The moment this bulky shape enters the frame, it immediately becomes obvious that whatever just walked by is far larger than expected. The enormous badger slowly passes in front of the camera, its stocky body and heavy shoulders making it look incredibly powerful for something so low to the ground. Even through the grainy footage, the animal's size and confident movement feel strangely intimidating. Certain animals become intimidating because of their unexpected proportions, in which strength, confidence, and unusual size make familiar wildlife appear far more formidable than imagined. Some insects settle disputes with fights far more violent than most people would ever expect. On the forest ground, two oversized figures suddenly face each other head-on, and within seconds, the tension between them completely takes over the scene. The giant forest ants clash with their massive mandibles, locking together as they aggressively push across the dirt. Every movement feels intense and deliberate, making the encounter look less like a normal insect interaction and more like a miniature battle between armored predators. Even tiny creatures can display shocking aggression, where territorial instincts transform ordinary insect behavior into something unexpectedly brutal and intensely confrontational up close.